Welcome back to the Blokes podcast, everyone. It's Ryan Hassan here again from the Centre for Healing, joined by Nico from MyndFit. And Nico, we have a guest today, Millzy, who I'm very, very excited to chat to about his journey. Do you just want to fill the listeners in on who Millzy is?
I will indeed. Listeners, Millzy is a legend of a bloke. He first came into my radar, I guess, through the boys at Trademutt. Millzy, I think, had done a post on his social media and Instagram that he was struggling, I think, and yeah, the boys at MyndFit picked up on that and tagged me and something, said, Nico, can you help him out? So Millzy and I had a bit of a chat, and he came in to see me, and so now he's 6 weeks into a 12-week program and absolutely smashing it and kicking goals. And we're going to learn more about how he's achieved that from the man himself. But from my perspective, it's just been amazing to see someone pick up all these tools and resources and just start running with them and using them. And I don't know, from my perspective, he's in a vastly different headspace now to where he was 6 weeks ago. So yeah, let's chat to the man
Let's
himself.
jump into it. Millzy, looks like you're repping the colours. That looks like a Trademutt shirt and a MyndFit hat.
It is. Repping everyone.
Repping everyone.
We've decked him out.
Definitely looking the part, mate. So Millzy, look, let us know maybe where you were 6 weeks ago, sort of what was happening for you in your life at that time when you were struggling.
Go back a bit further, mate. Go back a bit further. When does it all start?
I just started getting down on myself and,
and not in a James Brown sort of way.
Spiraling down and, you got into that rut, didn't know how to get out.
Mm-hmm.
And, since the start, I was looking at everything in a negative light. Handing the keys of my happiness over to anyone who came into my life.
Mm-hmm.
And, it came to a point just every night I was getting down on myself to the point, I was openly speaking about mental health online, but I had to address, I had to speak to a professional and actually get help for it.
100%. That can be the hardest part for us stubborn blokes, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so
when
things.
When you say getting down on yourself, can you tell the listeners what that was like for you? Because I think it's different. Were you sitting there just beating yourself up, calling yourself names, or what was that like? Were you drinking heaps, or what was going on?
Not so much drinking heaps. I've always been pretty aware that when I'm starting to feel depressed, that I should cut the drinking out. But it was more, that at night you're beating yourself up, and a lot of it was observing what was going on around me, but judging myself on that. So someone was, they're having the big holiday, or they've got the brand new car, or stuff like that.
So you're comparing yourself to everyone else?
Yeah, comparing myself to everyone else, and just letting little things get to me. I'd heard something through the day, oh, you're useless. They'll just resonate. And when you're by yourself, left alone to your thoughts, it'll just resonate. And it just came to a point enough's enough, really.
Yeah,
so someone out there would say you're bloody useless, or someone at work or something, and you'd carry that for the rest of the day, and then by the time you got home at night, it's just cutting laps through your head.
Yeah.
Digging its way deeper into your subconscious psyche.
Yeah, almost planting the seed, and just.
And you kept watering it.
Yeah, and then at night, just as soon as you're alone and it's quiet, just sat there ringing through, and enough was enough, and reached out to the Trademutt boys.
So that happened over a period of time. I imagine you sort of just keep running this really negative scripts through your head, and then,
that was my next question. It was like if kind of 6 weeks ago was the point where it's like, fuck, I need to get professional help and reach out. Sort of in your summation, how long ago would maybe that rut have started, do you think?
Oh, it's been going on and off for years.
Yep.
It would flare up, and I would be like, I need to speak to someone. But then a week later, it'd be like, I'm all good now. I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm fine. I've cured that.
Yeah.
Did you
Um,
ever speak to mates about it, or your parents,
I
or
spoke
a
to
professional?
I spoke to a couple of mates about it. I've had a few mates that have been really good and dragged me out of the environment fairly often.
Mm.
Um, and then I spoke to psychologists at times, and just felt, you know, they'll speak to you, um, give you all this advice, but then you'd go back 2 weeks later and you'd talk the same things, given the same advice, and it just seemed like a repetitive circle.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, that's something that we touched on, I think, last week, Nick. It's this, the whole idea of, we have to keep coming back and coming back and coming back to stay on top of things where it's like,
yeah,
there's things that we do need help with and help people show us, but also we need different frameworks so that we can be our own person. And
yeah,
we can reach out
definitely.
when we need to, but we can also be our own person that can support us. And it was
That's
something
why I
really,
shifted my business and pivoted and went from state of mind to MyndFit because as we said last week, I think I was helping people out of their suffering, but I wasn't helping them to stop falling back into that suffering, so they'd come back around in circles. So
Yeah,
MyndFit now is it sounds weird, but I don't want to see my clients again. I want to
yeah.
get them to a stage where they're that emotionally self-sufficient that they can stand on their own 2 feet. But it's unrealistic as well, so that's why we've got the maintenance program in place, so just to keep people on track. But yeah, it's great that Millzy has reached out to mates and then to psychologists, and he keeps reaching out until he finds something that works for him.
Yeah, and
yeah,
that's so important for people to hear because oftentimes it's such a step, especially for us guys, it's such a step to like reach out for help. We've been resisting it for so long. So when we do it, we feel a bit vulnerable. And then if we reach out and speak to someone and maybe, whoever we speak to, it doesn't quite resonate, then we'll just write everything off, because it's because of that vulnerability. Like I've heard people say, oh, I tried psychologists and they don't work, or I tried hypnotherapists and they don't work. I'm like, man, there's so many different types of psychology, and there's so many different types of psychologists in each of those branches of it. And the same with hypnotherapy. It's like, don't write off an entire field just because just one person didn't resonate.
well,
Yeah,
that's what
totally.
really got me thinking about seeing someone again. Was like you said, there's so many different people out there, different resources, and it was a quote on one of the podcasts I listened to, the trademark one, and they said, you know, if you don't enjoy pizza, you don't stop eating pizza. You try a new pizza shop,
Yeah,
and it was just that simplicity that really resonated with me, and
yeah,
that's when I
Yeah,
yeah,
was
it's
like,
horses for
I need
courses.
to
It
try
really is.
something new.
yeah, yeah.
It really is
Because
horses for
pizza
courses.
works for
Yeah,
everyone. Once you find the right one, pizza definitely works.
that's it.
Like
And
if you don't like beer, don't give up beer. Just find another brewery.
Yeah,
yeah, that's it.
So
Um,
and I found that myself. With my own journey, it was I'd reach out to some mates, but I, I didn't want to burden people, and I hear that a lot with people as well. So I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to burden you with my issues. Um, but I also found some of my mates were too sympathetic. They'd be, oh, woe is you, or they'd enable me to stay in that shitty headspace. And then some other mates with the opposite of the spectrum, where you go, fucking hard, no, fucking, what are you complaining about, blah, blah, blah. So essentially, they weren't really skilled to deal with what I was doing. So a lot of blokes out there who have a mate struggling don't know how to help them. And the reality is, you can't help them. You can only really support them. And hey, what else can I do for you? Do you believe that, Millsy?
yeah, definitely. And it was one thing I noticed, especially once I openly started speaking about the struggles, was you really got the grip of mates that would do that. Oh, toughen up. It's no big deal.
Mm.
And then you had the mates that would jump in and go, "Oh, you okay? Is it, and oh, if you ever need me, I'm here." This, but then you had the mates who were just like, um, you know, "I'll come up for the weekend and get out of Melbourne for a little bit. We'll have a few beers at the pub." And so you saw the wide variety of your mates stand up, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Yeah, and that's great, but I mean, it's always, we do need that professional, and also it's always good to have someone that you just don't know, that you don't have any history with,
Yeah,
that
definitely.
can actually objectively look at your life. Like, I remember, like, we would have, therapists that we trained up, and they're like, oh, my sister is going to come in and do a session, and we're like, we would never do sessions on friends or family, because
Yeah,
it's like, as soon as you have a history with someone, you will edit what you say. Whereas if
yeah,
you have like this blank slate in front of you, you can just go, "Whoa," let it all out, and then you have objectivity coming back at you, which is so important.
yeah. And I think that's what I really liked about when I started with Nico. It was you hit with the truth.
Hmm.
You know, it's psychiatrists in the past where it's you know this is my problem, this is my problem, this is my problem, and they're going, oh, you poor thing, your life sounds terrible. You know, everyone's doing you wrong. Whereas Nick was like, let's rephrase that, let's rethink that, and
Yep.
um, almost set me straight.
Yeah. Yeah, it's important. I think Don Miguel Ruiz has a good analogy. He talks about truth is like the scalpel, that you can actually start to get to the truth about. So it's like you always have to start with truth, because otherwise you're not going to uncover what the real problems are. And oftentimes we don't understand what our real core issues are, and that gets so frustrating, especially for us
Yeah,
guys. We're like, fuck, why am I like this? Why am I in this rut? Why do I feel depressed? Why do I have these thoughts? And it just takes a little bit of truth to shake us up a bit, and then we have to sort of forgive how we've been in the past, and then start to move forward. But it always starts with that scalpel, and it sounds like, Nico, you've been getting in there, with him.
Sharpening the blade. No, it's you've hit the nail on the head there, mate. It's the problem's never what we think the problem is. It's problematic, but because we're stuck. But it's not the problem. The problem is that we don't know how to move past it, or let go, or forgive, or trust, or you know. Our mind's so bent out of shape from all these cognitive distortions that we're just disillusioned and disoriented. So, but it's never what we think the problem is. So it wasn't Millzy's boss. It wasn't anyone saying you're this. It was Millzy's inability to stay grounded in who he is, and taking that, and it's probably step one with all of my clients is you are responsible for your happiness. We speak about that fucking every week. It's your garden. You can't expect it to be nice, if you don't go and weed the bastard. So.
And what were some of those truths, Millsy, that you got hit with early on?
um, I think the one that really did resonate was the keys of happiness. Just that analogy that I was literally grabbing the keys and throwing them at someone, going, here, take my happiness. You
Yep.
you take control of my day. So I think that was the biggest truth for me, was that really taking of control of my happiness again.
Yep.
And I think the other one that that really hit home, and it's one we're taught from a young age, but is you're not the center of the universe.
Yeah.
Um, especially like he said on here, when he looks out the window and you kind of like, if it makes you feel childish. It's
Oh yeah, because that's to put that into context. So in my office, there's a little window above where the clients sit, and I was like, "Oh, hang on, Millzy, let me just look." Oh no, it's not utopia. Sorry, it doesn't. It's not utopia. Nothing's going to go your way. It's not, And
Yeah.
I do it jokingly and with a bit of jest.
yeah,
I'm not, hopefully, taking the piss out of clients, but it is to put into perspective that there is so much going on out of your control. The universe really doesn't care about what you think and what you want.
Mm. Yeah, which is, I mean, when you've got the keys in other people's hands, and the world, that is essentially the world, other people, and the world is very, very chaotic, then your internal state's going to be chaotic as well, because you're so dependent on what other people are doing. It's like a bit of a roller coaster, and the problem is we want to feel okay, we want to feel happy, so we have this desire that just never gets met, because unfortunately no one, not even our husband, wife, partner, whatever, they're not going to make us happy all the time. It's just a false narrative that we got running.
But if you
definitely.
want someone to make you happy, and you make them responsible for your happiness, because they can't read your mind and understand you on a cellular level, and know you inside and out. As soon as you make them responsible for your happiness, you're making them responsible for your unhappiness as well.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, it's their fault that you're unhappy.
Yeah.
Geez, he gives me the shits. Geez, she makes me so frustrated. Geez, they piss me off. God, they're this. And you can hear the outsourcing, and you can hear the attachment in that. I need you to do this to make me happy.
And
what crazy.
Yeah, and what pressure to put on someone else that you supposedly love, that say my happiness or unhappiness is all on your shoulders. And the problem is when we first start dating someone, we are in an infatuation stage, which means we have a balanced human being, and all those negatives are blocked out of perception. We don't see them. That's why we're like, they're perfect, they're amazing, they have no faults. I have found the perfect woman or man, And then all of a sudden...
That's because we're hardwired to procreate and survive.
Yeah.
So we push aside all the shitty things and go, right, I can mate with you. We can have kids and keep the species going.
Yeah, and then we do put the keys of happiness over to them because they keep meeting those needs. All the time, it was just our perception. It wasn't them at all. And then the infatuation stage wears off and we're like, oh... I don't like how she said that. Who is this person, right? And now all of a sudden it's like, you made me happy all the time and now you're not. That's your fault.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
How irrational. Like, these people are struggling to make themselves happy.
Yeah.
And so most people are in survival mode and emotionally, trying to figure out their own shit. And as soon as you come along and go, oh, by the way, now you've got the keys to my happiness too, they're like, well... that's not going to be a priority. I'm
still trying to work out my puzzle.
So I'll put your keys over there. Yeah. As soon as I figure out my shit, maybe I'll get round to...
in about 50 years.
So, essentially, in a non-judgmental way, Millzy came in and he was operating in a completely irrational manner. It just wasn't making sense. That what he wanted and was trying to achieve and what he was doing were two very separate things on very separate causes.
Which we all have to varying degrees in different areas of our life. And I think when we get these really out of balance in quite a few areas of life, that's when we find ourselves in this very these dark places, which I know I've been in, Nico. I know you have as well. Millzy, you said something really important earlier that I just wanted to touch on, because I actually had a conversation the other day with someone about this. It's like this, we get caught really in the middle. So I find people, whether it's with depression or anxiety or drugs, when things are really bad, we just want to isolate. So in those times we isolate, and they're the times that we actually decide, hey, I really want to reach out for help, but I'm so isolated right now, I'm not going to reach out. Then all of a sudden, a few days later, we've got a bit more energy in the body and we're feeling a bit better. Deep down, we know we're still fucked, but we feel a bit better. And then now I have the energy to not isolate and I can go and ask for help, but I don't, because I lie to myself and say, hey, I'm feeling okay now. Everything's on the up and I'm not doing it. And then all of a sudden we go back into that pattern of isolating, I'm okay, isolating, and we just go months and even years without asking for help. So I'd like to know from you maybe what was the catalyst this time? How did you find that space to reach out?
I think it was that enough was enough. And I'd spoken to someone about a month, 2 months prior to seeing Nick, and they almost encouraged that thought of the last thing they said was, oh, you seem better, come back and see me when you're not feeling so good. So kind of encouraged that thought pattern.
So this was a psychologist or someone, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was a psychologist I was seeing beforehand. But then
what else did they do? Sorry, because it was they weren't available or something a lot.
Oh, they just kept cancelling on me. So it'd be you'd have a session booked in, you'd have things that you'd want to talk about that week, and then the day of the appointment would be, oh, sorry, I've got to cancel. I'll call you back when I can rebook it. And then you wouldn't hear from them for a week, so it'd be like, oh, I better give them a call. And you'd book in, you'd go, get to the day to see, and they'd go, oh, sorry, I've got to cancel. Something's popped up. And
so there was no consistency there for
you,
which is what you really need. You need that stability.
Yeah, definitely. And that, that weekly catch up, talk about any challenges during the week, and almost hit a reset on the week at times when it's been, if it's been a really challenging week, it's almost that
Yep.
reset switch. It was like when we spoke the other day, Nick, and I came in a real negative mood. I'd had a few issues with Dad, and it was almost that reset switch of Nick was able to help me catch myself and rethink everything. Um, but what really drew me to Nick was um, when I did reach out to Trademark and they said, "Hey, we got this guy. We really recommend speaking to." I'd listened to the podcast he'd done with them before, so I'd heard about how he liked to run the MyndFit program, and it was just something about it resonated with me that you know, especially when he said, "I'm not here just to throw a pity party," basically. Um, I think that's what I liked, that it was that someone who was actually going to turn and go, "No, this is,
Yeah.
this is how it is, not poor you, poor you."
Yeah, which is what we need, especially
Yeah.
us guys. We need a bit of a shake-up, don't we?
You got to work in the reality of what is. And that's uncomfortable. But if you don't work within the truth of what is occurring, then you're not doing anyone any favours.
Well, I think that's what makes psychiatrists so easy, or psychologists, they're so easy. It's like you're going in going, it's everyone else's fault. That's how I felt about it. I'm perfect. It's everyone else's fault. It's everyone else's fault, and they're almost enabling it. Whereas, with Nick, within the first 5 minutes was, well, hold up, let's address this.
Well, I've got a challenge for you. This has. We're all walking around in our own belief system, which is creating this illusion of our reality. And so, part of my job, a really important part, is to very mindfully help clients to break down that shitty illusion that it's everyone else and that they need to do this and blah blah blah. They get rid of that narrative that's just creating this crappy existence for them and get back to the basics of, right, you're responsible for your happiness. This is what you have to do. You got to take ownership. You've got to step up. You've got to, it's that accountability is the biggest word, I think. And if we're not accountable for ourselves, then what are we doing?
No, that's right. I think it's the kick up the arse that we need, because a lot of people like say it's depression, and we need to have that realization that we have made ourselves depressed. Now, certain things have happened to us in our life, and we haven't consciously done it. We haven't said, "Well, this happened, and now I'm going to be depressed." It's just we just held on and held on and held on to so much stuff, and then maybe someone told us we have a chemical imbalance, so we hold on to that, and all of a sudden, it's like, well, this is my state, and this is why. And then we get very married to that story, and that's why, we've had many people come in and just say, "Well, this is what I've got, and this is why." So, okay, let's see, because it's like, but as soon as you have someone realize you're doing this, okay, you're depressed because you're doing this, you're running stories and programs, and you have old emotions going on, and it's like, it's like that. Oh shit. But then it's like the next moment, it's like, oh, that's quite empowering, because if I'm holding on to it, I can change it. I remember when I first went and saw Melissa, and we were just checking some beliefs that I had, and I found out that I had some really core beliefs that I not only didn't love myself, but hated myself, and a bunch of others didn't feel worthy and all that kind of jazz. And I remember sitting down, and I was kind of slumped, because I'm like, oh, that's really depressing. But then she's like, but now we get to actually work on this, because you can rewrite those stories. And I'm like, oh, cool, okay. so it's deflating and empowering at the same time.
Yep.
Yeah. You said something then, Hass, that triggered a train of thought that's taken off, and I don't know where it's gone now.
It's been derailed.
It's been derailed. It fell off a bridge. No, it'll come back to us. So, Millzy, so that's sort of where you were, and you enough was enough, and you reached out and you asked for help, and it's a brave step, and you've come in and you've realised that someone's held you to account, and you've learnt that you're responsible for your happiness. So that, I imagine, created some internal shifts for you and gave you a different capacity, or what's it sort of done for you?
The first feeling, it was an excitement. It was that I'd been given, even from the discovery session, a heap of new tools and it was like an excitement of, oh, how can I use these new tools? And then it was just it was almost, some of it was an instant switch, and it just felt like released some tension almost.
And I think what you said before about when enough's enough, I know with you, Hass, and your clients, but I get a lot of clients say, you're my last resort, or enough's enough, or I'm at rock bottom. And I love working with those people because they're willing to let go and willing to do anything. It's sort of, I think that's where Millzy was at. It was just like, oh, right, whatever's working, whatever I'm doing isn't working.
Yeah.
I'm open to whatever you give
Come
me.
come down so low that they've been broken open. Yeah, it's beautiful. I especially like the phrase where someone comes in and says, like, they're so depressed, like, I just don't know who I am anymore. And it's like this really depressing thing, and I'm like, beautiful. That's like that's the perfect place to work from. Yeah, when you don't know who you are anymore.
I love it when they say, I don't know. I'm like, so what do you want? I don't know. Perfect. We're exactly where we need to be.
Yeah.
Now we just need to start doing that. That's what I was going to say. That train of thoughts come back around. Sorry, Millzy, we'll get back to you in a sec.
That's all right.
So when people say, that makes me so depressed or that makes me so anxious, you know, what you were saying before, Hass, it's... and I think that's what Millzy's learned, is that thing doesn't make you depressed. That thing doesn't make you anxious. Your reaction to it is to feel anxious or depressed because of the way that your mind is filtering and processing that reality. So yeah, when you can teach people how to stop and pause and just observe that, and to take a breath and go, oh right, it's not about me, it's about them, or you know, I'm not an idiot, or I'm not a dickhead, I'm actually a really good person. It changes everything.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's all our perception. It's all our filters. That's why, like, two people can go into a movie and one will go, that was fantastic, and the other go, that was a terrible movie. It's like the same movie, you know, and one of them, the main character might have been wearing a sweater or had a haircut the same as their uncle who abused them when they were younger, so they fucking hated it. The other person, there was the same sweater or haircut their uncle had, and their uncle was amazing and they had a really good relationship, so they loved it, right? It's just coming through a different filter.
Yeah. So sorry, Millzy, keep going. So you came in and these tools were great, and
Yeah, it just resonated, and I think what it was, and I keep saying it with you, Nick. It's the common sense behind them. You know, they're not hard tools to live by, because some of them are tools that from kids we're taught. You know, especially like I said, you're not the center of the universe. You can't always get what you want. How many times did your parents tell you that when you were
plenty
growing up? But I think it was almost that reminder once you've grown up that, you know, hey, remember, you can't always get what you want, and that it was almost like a refresher in life.
Refresher in life. I like that.
Yeah.
How are you going with let's talk about maybe specifics. So let's go with those thought patterns or those negative thoughts that you were getting. So let's say there's the I'm useless voice, which we've all had from time to time, and just like you said, it might come externally, but then all of a sudden it just starts festering inside. How are you going with those now? Like, are you just sort of reframing those? You're letting go as soon as they come up? Like, how's your relationship with those?
Yeah, definitely just reframing them as soon as they come up, and to an extent blocking them out. But I've even worked out just in certain environments, if I listen to one I took on board early was listen to you guys talk on the podcast, and almost relaxed me, and I didn't let that stuff get to me as much. So it shifted my focus. And then one I started doing recently was, very recently, was meditate. So
and how do you go with that? What kind of meditation practice are we talking?
So I did a Spotify playlist for guided anxiety meditation.
Yep. Do you want to give Hass some backgrounds on that story? So what were you doing? You're going to walk for your coffee or something, and there'd been a build-up of life
anxiety.
Events happening.
Yeah, so I was feeling really anxious, and um, every morning I wake up, walk, get a coffee, and I like just
Because
to
that'll
walk
help with
around.
the anxiety.
Yeah, and
Snap.
hard truth. Um, like to walk beside the river and get a bit of exercise in. And I just felt tight, sore, didn't really feel like going for a walk. And I walk the same pathway every day, and then it comes up to this little Y
Metaphorically and
intersection.
physically.
Yeah, that's very deep, actually, what you just
Yeah,
said.
and it comes to a fork in the road. And I've always followed the same path, and everyone always goes this one path. And I'm like, shit, I wonder what happens if I follow this path down the hill? And I walk down there, and the path just ends. And I got on the Instagram, I've gone, oh, it's the road to nowhere. And it was I went down. It was just this grassy section, and you come right next to the river, and there's some rapids. I was like, oh, this is real peaceful, and I was just like, still feeling really anxious and heavy. So I was like, oh, get on Spotify and just put in meditation, and the first thing that popped up was the guided meditation for anxiety. So
Perfect.
I'm like, all right, I'll give this a go. I sat there and took my hoodie off, put it on the ground, sat there beside the river, and it just for 15 minutes just closed the eyes. And I was saying to Nick yesterday, the woman was like, breathe in through the third eye and breathe out through the third eye. I was like, oh, I've got such a headache, like. And the more I was doing it, this headache just kept growing. I'm like, oh, this just seems like a load of shit. And then and then also she's like, now breathe through your toes. I'm like, all right. And this headache just left. I was like, what's going on here? So I finished up this meditation, and I sat there for a few minutes, kind of, oh shit, what just happened? And I stood up, and I said to Nick, yes, I felt 10, 15 kilos lighter.
Wow.
It was, yeah, it was the
It was
most
the opposite of a
incredible
coffee.
feeling. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was, it was just weird feeling, and it was, I sat there for a bit. I'm like, shit, I need to tell people about this. I'm like, and all I could think about was, when you guys were talking, oh, we all post about our meditation to feed the ego. I'm like, yeah, I can't post it. I can't post it. I can't post it. And I'm like, shit, people don't need to know about this.
Rocking a hard place. Rocking a hard
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
I was like, shit, everyone needs to know about this. And, quickly did a bit of a video there, and uploaded it when I got home. And
Yeah. It
it
sounds
was,
like really just everything aligned there. Right time, right place,
yeah,
right meditation. You took that fork in the road. You ended up at that
Yeah.
place.
But it's the path to nowhere, but nowhere's probably where you needed to be.
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. But then it was like, oh shit, I'm gonna have to go back there more often, and hopefully
Yeah.
no one hears about, where I'm sitting.
My special spot.
This is where I
You
come to
hear the
cry.
anxiety there.
Yeah.
I hope no one hears about it because I want
Yeah.
it to be mine. It's my safe space. So it's
The attachment.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's
My
what I love.
safe
Like,
place.
Mills is now a great example of someone who can identify his cognitive distortions. Just that word that he said then, attachment. He can hear the attachment, which is then creating the anxiety, and he can hear how his mind is going into worst case scenario, or jumping to conclusions, or taking things personally, or thinking things should or shouldn't be a certain way, or black and white thinking. But he had no idea of that, and we talk very openly without judgment about how we're all so ignorant and incompetent and mediocre to a degree, and every client that comes in has no concept that there's these things called unhelpful thinking styles or cognitive distortions, and they're what primarily are going to send us into an emotional disturbance: anxiety, depression, guilt, anger. So as soon as you give someone some knowledge, it is quite empowering, as you said. And that excitement that Millzy felt was hope. It was an excitement about, oh, there's light at the end of the tunnel. There's a way out of this. There's a different way. There's a different path. And no no client I've worked with has ever realised that there's the hard path, and they're so, I don't know, what do you reckon, Millzy? They're so
You there,
conditioned
Millzy?
to taking the easy path.
Yep, Nick's just
Did you
frozen.
ever
So
know
we'll
that
just
there's
let
this
Nick
thing
freeze
called
for a minute.
the hard path? You have to
Look at him. He looks like he's really making a
instead of
solid
just
point there,
reacting.
doesn't he?
Yeah, it's almost
Yeah.
like halfway through a kung fu move.
Yeah.
Getting ready for
Sensei.
that jab.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he'll. Oh, here he is. He's back.
Yeah, you guys disappeared.
We're fine. You
I was
froze in.
balls
You
deep
froze
the
in some
story.
sort of karate pose.
Oh,
Ready for the punchline.
I was
Yeah.
balls deep in a story. I was just saying how Mills is a great example of people not knowing that there's those unhelpful thinking styles, but that there's also the hard path as well, where you can stop and pause and mindfully respond
Yeah.
instead of just reacting.
And that has such a massive. We're talking about having the tools where we can really self-manage and everything moving forward, and that's one of them. Being able to pick ourselves up, because like we were talking about before, Millsy, around these, these thinking patterns and these thought loops we get into. So it's like if all of a sudden we start a thought loop that I'm useless, and then that keeps playing, I'm useless, then that comes along with the emotion. So the emotion might be sadness, it could be depression, it could be anxiety, guilt, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then those two just feed off each other. And we end up so far down this rabbit hole, it's like we've just dug, and we end up really deep. And that's when people say, I'm in a rut, really deep. So the easier way is to catch things early. Because once I'm way down the rabbit hole in really, really, deep depression and these negative thought patterns, I've got to really work to pull myself out. But if we can catch it with those techniques that you're saying, Nick, and picking up our cognitive distortions seconds after they happen, then we don't go down the rabbit hole anymore. Yeah, and so the less of these rabbit holes we're going down.
That's what Millsy did with that stopping and going to a meditation, and that's one of the tools I teach is a bicep curl for the brain when you find yourself in that destructive thinking to go into constructive thinking. But you have to have the awareness that you're in the destructive thinking first, and then laugh at how irrational you're being, and then pull yourself back and then change into constructive thinking. So that's what you did essentially, wasn't it, Millsy?
Yeah, definitely. And it was, I keep saying it, but it was almost that reset on, on the thought pattern. And it was, the emotions were taking control of the day. And, at this stage, it's 10 o'clock in the morning. If I'm letting it take over at 10 o'clock in the morning,
yeah, well,
in a few
you're going
hours,
down the rapids, aren't you?
Yeah, who knows where it's going to end up. Whereas it was able to catch it really early in the day and make that positive shift for the rest of the day.
Yeah. A couple of things, Ellen. Nick, you said the laughter. I think the laughter is an important point because that means we're looking at ourselves curiously and with a bit of humour as opposed to being judgmental of ourselves. Because there's nothing worse than I'm starting these negative thought patterns again. And I'm like, fuck, I'm doing those negative thought patterns again. You dickhead. It's like you're just doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Digging deeper.
And then I think it was so interesting that when you were having that feeling of heaviness and anxiety that you took the different fork in the road. It's such a beautiful analogy because it's like when we get stuck in that, you're like, recognize I'm running an old pattern here. Yeah, but then we just keep going unconscious, so we just keep doing everything the same way in our day. That's why I tell people, I can be even good, just get up in the morning and brush your teeth with your opposite hand. Or do something like just shake up your neurological pathways because we just get so ingrained that our same patterns go along with same emotions and same thinking styles. So shift it up, and so the fork in the road was a perfect analogy.
Yeah, sounds so
Turn
cliche
left instead
as
of
well.
right.
Next minute, your headache's shooting out the bottom of your toes, mate, and you're feeling fantastic.
Well, one thing I said on the video, it was almost like the stress went down the rapids. It was
Yeah.
flowed away with the river.
Yeah, well, these visualization tools are very, very important. And it makes sense, where your attention goes, energy flows. Our consciousness is an energy in of itself. And it's like if you were focusing on that third eye, your headache would be getting larger, but obviously maybe coming to the surface. Then by taking your attention out, it was able to release, and it went down the river.
Well, I really think that's what helped. Just being able to listen to that trickle of the water flowing.
Yeah.
And it was like you could really when it was like release that negative energy, you could actually not only kind of feel it, but you could hear it going as well. Yeah, it was quite
beautiful thing.
quite an experience.
Didn't know how to feel about it.
Now you just have you done that meditation again since?
No, I've hopefully probably tomorrow. Just
Tomorrow. But now you have to let go of the attachment that you're going to have the same experience with that meditation.
yeah, time to look up a different one.
No, just do the same one, but realise that your experience. What's the expression? A man cannot step in the same river twice.
For he's not the same river and he's not the same man. Yeah, it's my
Yeah.
favourite quote. That's when you said the
Yeah.
river, I thought the same thing. It's a beautiful quote.
So with that meditation, the meditation is like the river. It's not going to be the same meditation because you're not the same man that's going to listen to it. You're a different version of yourself. So
Yeah,
your experience of it will be completely different and unique. So,
Yeah,
but if we
definitely.
go in there with an expectation that it should be, the same as how I experienced it last time, then we're just going to set ourselves up for disappointment.
This is what happens. Like, someone will go to a restaurant with their missus, and that'll be like the best night ever. And then they start telling all their friends, it's like, we're going next Saturday night. We're going to this Indian place. It is the fucking best. The waiting staff, the food, blah blah blah. And then they go there, and it's just not as good as last time. It's a different night. There's different staff. One of them's in a bad mood. Like all of these uncontrollables. And then you're like, I swear it was better last time. I'm sorry, guys. And it's just this big fucking thing, all because you held on to that experience so dearly,
builds
and
it
you
up.
wouldn't let it go.
it's not opening week anymore.
Yeah, they don't give a fuck anymore. Bring your stupid friends.
So we're halfway through a 12-week program, Millzy, and what do you feel has been the best change for you? What's sort of
I think honestly, just being able to catch myself, and being so aware.
woke?
We spoke the other day about you catch yourself at the strangest of times. Driving down the road and someone might, cut in front of you, and you just go, "Oh, you dickhead!" But it's like, "Oh shit!" I just, damn, I just thought that, jump to the conclusion on this, and just little things I'm catching myself on now.
Yeah, that's so important. The little things are so important because it's like they're all the, if it's like a gym analogy, they're all the reps, the easy reps you put in. So then when the big things in life come along, you're well trained to be able to handle and reframe those as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think especially, I've come in for the major issues, and it was, you know, these are the tools, but it's also picking up on the little things as well, which has been,
Yeah.
probably one
It's
of the
all
best experiences.
when
The
we get
mind-muscle connection.
the mind muscle. I think when we get to the end of life, we realize that all things were small. There were no big things. Life was made up of small things. Millzy, very important question. Would you call yourself a woke bloke?
On my way there.
On my way there.
I'm
Will you-
wokening.
I'm I'm wokening up.
Yep.
Still on the bus there.
Millzy on his Instagram is referring to himself as a mental health advocate.
Yep.
And we had a chat yesterday about how I'd like to work more closely with Millzy after he's finished his program and get out there and start educating blokes on the fact that we've all got mental health. There's things we need to do to get it in shape, and there's things we need to do to keep it there, and helping to, we spoke about not trying to break the stigma around mental health, but just help people to understand that we all have mental health and it's not a big deal. It's just something that we need to take care of and be considerate of, and helping them to understand that it's not just depression and bipolar, schizophrenia, suicide. It's actually happiness, peace, joy, content, equanimity. All these things are mental health as well. And because it's we're pretty simple creatures, us blokes. So the more simple it is, the more relatable it is, the easier it is for us. So if we can break it down to that and help blokes to understand that mentally most of us are out of shape. Mentally most of us are overweight. So going to see someone, whether it's MyndFit or the Centre for Healing or whatever the case may be, it's you got to get your mental health back in shape. And people have been neglecting their mental health because they don't know that they have it, and so they're not in a position to care for it or tend to it. Or if they do think of their mental health, they think of all the negative things, so they have an aversion to it. It's I don't want depression, I don't want anxiety, so they're going to still neglect it in that regard. So I think Millzy's going to be a real key figure in helping all these other blokes to, get on the path to better mental health and well-being.
And is that one of your goals, Millzy?
Yeah, it's something of one of the reasons I started the Instagram page was to really get that awareness out there.
What's the page called? Give it a shout out.
Millzy Sparky.
Millzy Sparky?
Yeah. And it was just, showing that, I guess as tradies, you're kind of often seen as the tough guys and the, don't talk about feelings. And I just wanted to get on there and be like, hey, I struggle. This is my story. This is where I've been. This is where I'm going.
And that vulnerability is so powerful, as we've spoken about us. And that's what Millzy is going to. What I see is going to. One of Millzy's greatest strengths is his willingness to be vulnerable and sharing, and it's not doing it for a woe is me or hey everyone look at me. It's a hey everyone look at yourselves, and this is what I experienced, and none of us are any better than any other bloke out there. We're not superhumans. We're not, it's just we're not better. We're just different because we've learned the hard way, I think.
Yeah, I think it's like when we're real with ourselves, and if Millzy putting himself out there, being real with himself, it gives other people who identify with that to be real with themselves too, which is the only way that we can help. Yeah,
I've just done about 5 or 6 client stories on video that I've put on my website. So just some clients, speaking for 4 or 5 minutes about their journey, and they all wanted to do that because they kept saying, how can I help other people? Now I'm in a good position. Now I'm not in emotional survival mode. What can I do? And I said, look, the best thing you can do is to share your story and be vulnerable, and that's going to give other people permission to go, yeah, hey, I'm struggling too.
Yeah, and I think picking up on the signs or making blokes aware of that's so important, because that, like you said, we've all got mental health. Like physical health is just, if I've got a sore leg and I start limping, that's very visible, and we tend to pick up on that very quickly. But we don't pick up on these very negative thought patterns the same. We just let it, the voice just says, I'm useless in my head, and then we identify with that, and we never have objectivity of watching that voice and what it's saying, because that's how.
Even with physical health, so many blokes are reluctant to go to a doctor.
Last minute.
I'm right, I'm fine.
Until we're keeling over.
If they're not even willing to do it with their physical health, which they can see, they're in no position to do it with their mental health.
Yeah, that's why we're forced to, through alcoholism, failed marriages, having kids taken away, all that kind of jazz. Yeah. It's all this, real rock bottom stuff when we could have picked up on this stuff so much earlier.
I think, and all of that links into the podcast we're going to do soon, maybe next week, on suicide, and how that ignorance and that unwillingness to reach out and ask for help and to burden other people is a huge catalyst or stepping stone on the way to suicide.
Yep. Shame.
One of the biggest things, and it was when one of the first messages I ever received, and it was something, why are you being so open about, why are you telling everyone about your struggles? Why are you doing this? And the initial thought behind it was that if I can tell the whole world, essentially the whole world, what my problem is, what's stopping someone from talking to the best mate, or it was almost trying to break that barrier, which since the thought process behind that slightly changed. But, even from the first video I posted, people messaging me going, thanks to your video, I've reached out to speak to someone, or, this is what I've been struggling with. And it was it was incredible, the response to it.
Yeah. People appreciate realness so much.
Yeah.
In a world where we're bombarded with fucking shitty advertising and marketing and celebrities and their bullshit lives and all that kind of jazz.
Sponsored ads and
What are
the Instagram, what are they?
Influencers.
Influences.
Oh, fuck.
We crave realness at the minute, and that's why people appreciate it. And that's why it's even as important. Like, those messages are great, saying, thanks to you, I've reached out. But even when someone says like, oh, what, why are you being so open and that kind of jazz, they're beautiful as well, because that means you've stirred up something in someone else where they feel uncomfortable that you're being so open, which is a reflection that they would never be that open. So that can even be the catalyst for cracking a very hard shell in someone else open.
But all we're trying to do is to plant seeds. We can't open a closed mind with brute force. We can't keep telling people what they should do and what they must do and what they have to do. It's got to come from within them. And the old expression, when the student's ready, the teacher will appear, sort of thing. So I think what Mills is doing, and Hass, what you and I are doing with this podcast and everything, we're just trying to plant seeds, and hopefully they find some fertile ground. We can't help everyone, people are going to stay in their ignorance. They're going to stay with their head in the sand. They're going to be too afraid, so they'll live in fear, whatever the case may be. But there are a lot of people that are teetering on the edge, and if they just hear one bloke's story or one thing reframed in a different way, or oh fuck, I have mental health, it's my responsibility to look after it, it plants that seed and opens up a pathway for them. Whether they take that step or not is up to them, and sometimes it takes 3, 6, 12 months before they'll take that step, so you've got to do a lot of watering of that seed, but yeah, I think for those with some underlying emotional intelligence, then they're the ones that really step forward.
Yeah, you've got to want it.
Got to want it, man.
You got to want it.
Come get some.
Awesome. All right. Well, before we wrap up, Millzy, what's next for you, mate? Obviously, you're still in the program with Mick and all that kind of jazz. But sort of what's on the horizon for you?
Who knows? Just every day as it comes, I guess. And,
beautiful.
I
like that. He's like, good answer, my student.
Like Nick just mentioned, we're talking about, potentially getting into some schools and talking to groups about the MyndFit program and potentially helping him out with that.
Awesome.
Not even the MyndFit program, more just mental health education, really.
Yeah.
So
just being able to keep spreading the word, I guess.
Yeah, love it, mate, love it. If someone is listening to this, we can anyone that's struggling, but maybe even think of a guy, tradie, that kind of thing, but anyone who's maybe in that state where they're quite low and isolating, know they need to reach out for help, but haven't yet. Do you have any words of wisdom for them?
Just reach out. There's plenty of resources out there. For me, it was as simple as reaching out to the Trademark boys. Don't let it sit with you. Don't let it weigh you down. It's as soon as you can talk to someone, you just that weight's released.
Yeah, and you're a testament, as we've heard for the last hour or so, of reaching out and how quickly you can start to shift a lot of these perceptions and how fast things can turn around. A lot of people think that when they're, I work with a lot of addicts, and when they're in the throes of addiction, they think they're so far away. It's the opposite side of the planet is their salvation or their happiness, but often it's just a few small little turns of a couple of cogs can make a radical difference in someone's life. So if you feel like you are a long way away from being happy and content, oftentimes you're not.
Question from Millzy just before we finish up. So that version of you that reached out for help, do you reckon he knew that 6 weeks later you could be feeling this way? Like,
probably not. I think 6 weeks ago I would have been looking at, it was unrealistic to believe in 6 weeks I would be feeling how I am now. The thing I was looking at is, in 12 months' time I'll be, here. Whereas being through having those tools, been such a quick quick change because, like you said, it can just be little things that need tweaking that make a huge difference.
Awesome. So just
Yeah,
these little things.
I mean, and you've still got a ways to go.
yeah,
You know,
definitely.
but because we're literally changing your mind, changing your neurological pathways. So, and that does take time. But I just really hope that you're proud, first and foremost, of the fact that you reached out and asked for help and you got out of your comfort zone. And I hope you're really proud of what you continue to bring week after week. You keep turning up, you keep wanting to improve, you keep letting go, you keep getting better, you keep challenging yourself, you keep allowing me to challenge you. So, you know, as with every person I work with, my hat always comes off to them, but it's important for you guys to sort of sit and acknowledge a little bit what it is that you're actually doing for yourself. So, well done.
Cheers, mate.
Hats off to you, Millzy. I feel left out without a fucking MyndFit hat. Nick, can you send me one, please?
No, the fucking post in Thailand shithouse. You'll get it in about a decade.
I ordered some undies about a month ago. I'm still fucking waiting. Bonds undies.
I know you're wearing nappies.
Probably because I don't know how to write the address in properly, but that's minor details. And I think as well, Millzy, it's important. Obviously, you had these idea that it was realistic to be at a certain place in 12 months, and now 6 weeks later, you're finding yourself in a much better place, and that's amazing. And I think also, you know, for people that are struggling, it all just starts with what the next step is. And like there was a next step for you was I need to reach out to Trademutt and get some advice. And the next step was, okay, I need to reach out to Nick. Now I need to go in and see Nick. It's just these steps at a time that you were committed to in yourself that obviously led to these changes happening.
Yeah, especially I think it was developing the trust as well. You know, I'd been and met the guys in Brisbane from Trademutt, so there was a trust with them.
Yep.
And it was the same as soon as I met Nick. You know, we met out in the car park before our first session, and it was just instantly that trust was built. It just made it so much easier to
that's
talk.
that rapport, you know, and that's what so many people don't have in their past experiences with clinical psychologists or something. It's that rapport, and I've spoken about this so many times. The 3 keys to positive therapeutic intervention are rapport, hope, that excitement, and then the change, which is what you're doing now. So, you know, we've knocked those 3 things on the head, and the proof's in the pudding.
Definitely.
What's the proof in the pudding mean?
Hang on, is it? I've just had a realization. It's not. It's proof in the pudding, isn't it? Because I thought it was proof in the pudding, and then I'm like, hang on, what pudding?
Is it pudding or pudding?
I thought it was pudding.
Pudding. I think we're all idiots. I'm looking it up.
No, we're not, Millzy. No, we're not. Don't take on board what Ryan just said then.
I'm an idiot.
Earmuffs. Franks and beans. I'm not an idiot. While Hass is looking that up, so eat the elephant one bite at a time, I think, is really important. And Millzy, what you were saying was it seemed unattainable, it seemed out of reach, it seemed such a big mountain to climb, you know, getting from rock bottom to back on top.
Yeah.
But what Hass was saying, take those baby steps, one step at a time, and that's all you got to do. One foot in front of the other. What's a journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step or something.
That's right.
If it feels overwhelming, put that out of mind and just focus on the stepping stones.
And commit to yourself.
Yeah.
Commit to
what
yourself.
Was it? What'd you find out?
It is pudding.
So how does proof enter a pudding?
So, no, it doesn't. So the proof is in the pudding is a very old proverb, is that to know what a food tastes like, you first have to try it. So if you want to know what the pudding tastes like, the proof will be in that first spoonful.
The eating of it.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward, isn't it?
Yeah.
I thought it was like a bragging thing for a second.
It's boring compared to what we usually do. The first person to actually say the proof is in the pudding.
I'm imagining like a Sherlock Holmes kind of character, and he's been through a big case and he's trying to solve, and he's, you know...
He's got a pipe.
He's got his, was it Watson?
Yep.
Dear Watson?
Yep.
Yeah, anyway, imagine it's a TV show and it's right towards the end of the episode and they've found out that actually the evidence and the proof they need for catching the Scarlet Pimpernel is actually inside a pudding. There's some sort of note or something in there.
It was the chef that killed the Scarlet Pimpernel in the library.
What was that, Cluedo?
Yeah.
I used to love that TV show.
He poisoned him with the pudding, and so the proof was in the pudding.
Bang. Colonel Mustard.
We've solved it. We've done it. Proverb busted.
Completely different to what I was thinking.
Hey?
I was picturing like Doris down at the CWA.
She would make a bloody good pudding, by the way.
She's been bragging for months, I've got this bloody good pudding recipe.
Blue ribbon pudding.
Oh, yeah. I like where you're going with this, Millzy. Yeah, so she's been talking it up.
Talking it up, I've got the best pudding and the family loves it. And, she's come to the local fair and she's put it out there. And she's had to prove herself, and everyone's come in and they've taken a little bit. They go, "Oh, this is the best thing ever." It was,
she's been trying for 30 years and she keeps failing.
Yeah, and all the ladies from the other districts of the CWA come and they're a bit like, yeah, it's not the best pudding. The proof will be in the pudding, and they taste it and it is the best.
Yeah.
So they have to succumb.
Yeah.
I like that one better, actually. Two very good scenarios. Maybe they both happened simultaneously in different parts of the planet, and that's how it started.
Just met up at some stage.
Well, on that note, I'm hungry.
Yeah, I'm hungry too, actually.
Definitely.
I'm starving. All right, let's go get some food. Millzy, it was an absolute bloody pleasure having you on, mate. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for the work that you're doing on yourself and the work that you are going to continue doing, not just for yourself, but others in the future. You are a absolute legend of a bloke, as Nick said right at the beginning. I agree with you, Nick. You were correct in that summation. So, mate, thank you again for coming on. It was a pleasure. Millzy, Nico, thank you so much. Everyone listening, thank you. We'll see you all in the next episode.
Cheers. Peace.
Thanks, guys.
Peace.